Hello. Welcome to chapter 1 of 1000 Gifts, brought to you by me and Josie. An emptier, fuller life. Every sin is an attempt to fly from emptiness. Simone Weil, Gravity and Grace. A glowing sun orb fills an August sky the day this story begins. The day I am born, the day I begin to live. And I feel my mother's tearing ring of fire with my body emerging, virgin lungs searing with air of this earth. And I enter the world like every person born enters the world, with clenched fist. From the diameter of her fullness, I empty her out, and she bleeds. Vernix, creased and squalling, I am held to the light. Then they name me. Could a name be any shorter? 3 letters without even the flourish of an E. And a trio of curves and lines. It means full of grace. I haven't been. What does it mean to live full of grace? To live fully alive? They wash my pasty skin, and I breathe, and I flail. I flail. For decades, a life I continue to flail and strive and come up so seemingly empty. I haven't lived up to my christening. Maybe in those first few years of my life, slowly opened, curled, like cupped hands, a receptacle open to the gifts that God gives. But those years, I have no memories. They say memory jolts awake with trauma's electricity. That would be the year I turned 4, the year when blood pooled and my sister died, and I, all of us, snapped shut to grace. Standing at the side porch window, watching my parents stunned, bending, I wonder if my mother had held me in those natal moments of naming like she had held my sister in death. In November light, I see my mother and father sitting on the back porch step, rocking her swaddled body in their arms. I press my face to the kitchen window, the cold glass, and watch them, watch their lips move, not with sleep prayers, but with pleas for waking, whole and miraculous. It does not come. The police do. They fill out reports. Blood seeps through that blanket bound. I see that too, even now. Memories surge, burns deep. That staining of her blood scorches me, but less than the blister of seeing her uncovered, lying there. She only had toddled into the farm lane, wandering after a cat, and I can see the delivery truck driver sitting at the kitchen table, his head in his hands, and I remember how he sobbed that he had never seen her. But I still see her, and I cannot forget. Her body, fragile and small, crushed by a truckloads in our farmyard, blood soaking into the thirsty, track-beaten earth. That's the moment the cosmos shifted, shattering any cupping of hands. I can still hear my mother's witnessing scream, see my father's eyes shot white through. My parents don't press charges, and they are farmers, and they keep trying to breathe, keep the body moving to keep the soul from atrophying. Mama cries when she strings out the laundry. She holds my youngest baby sister, a mere 3 weeks old, to the breast, and I can't imagine how a woman only weeks fragile from the birth of her 4th child witnesses the blood on the gravel death of her 3rd child, and she leaks milk for the babe, and she leaks grief for the buried daughter. Dad tells us 1,000 times the story after dinner, how her eyes were water clear and without shores, how she held his neck when she hugged him and held on for dear life. We accept the day of her death as an accident, but an act allowed by God. For years, my sister flashes through my nights, her body crumpled on the gravel. Sometimes in dreams, I cradle her in the quilt Mama made for her, pale green, with the hand-embroidered Humpty Dumpty and little Bo Peep, and she's safely cocooned. I await her unfurling and the rebirth. Instead, the earth opens wide and swallows her up. At the grave's precipice, our feet scuff dirt, and chunks of firmament fall away. A clod of dirt hits the casket, shatters over my little sister with the white blonde hair, and the little sister who teased me and laughed, and the way she'd throw her head back and laugh, her milk-white cheeks dimpled right through with happiness, and I'd scoop close all her belly giggling life. They lay her gravestone flat into the earth, a black granite slab engraved with no dates, only the 5 letters of her name, Amy. It means loved one. And how she was. We had loved her, and with the laying of her gravestone, the closing up of her deathbed, we closed our lives, closed to any notion of grace. Really, when you bury a child, or when you just simply get up every day and live life raw, you murmur the question soundlessly. No one hears. Can there be a good God? A God who graces us with good gifts when a crib lies empty, long nights, and bugs burrow through coffins? Where is God, really? How can he be good when babies die and marriages implode and dreams blow away, dust in the wind? Where is grace bestowed when cancer gnaws and loneliness aches and nameless places in us soundlessly die, break off without reason, erode away? Where hides this joy of the Lord, this God who fills the earth with good things? And how do I fully live when life is full of hurt? How do I wake up to joy and grace and beauty and all that is the fullest life when I must stay numb to the losses and crushed dreams and all that empties me out? My family, my dad, my mama, my brother, and youngest sister, for years, we all silently asked these questions. For years, we come up empty, and over the years, we fill again with estrangement. We lived with our hands clenched tight. What God once gave us on a day in November slashed deep. Who risked again? Years later, I sit at the end of the brown plaid couch, my dad stretched out along its length, worn from a day driving tractor, the sun beating and the wind blowing. He asked me to stroke his hair. I stroked from the cowlick of his and back his hair ringed from the line of his cap. He closed his eyes. I asked questions that I never would if I were looking into them. Did we ever used to go to church? Like a long time ago, Dad? 2 neighboring families take turns picking me up, a Bible in hand and a dress ironed straight, for church services on Sunday mornings. Dad works. Yeah, as a kid I went. Your grandmother had us go every Sunday after milking was done. That was important to her. I keep my eyes on the dark strands of hair running through my fingers. I need out its tangles. But it's not important to you now? The words barely whispered hang. He pushes up his plaid sleeves, shifts his head, his eyes still closed. Oh, I wait, hands combing, waiting for him to find the words for those feelings that don't fit neatly into the stiff ties, the starched collars of sentences. No, I guess not anymore. When Amy died, I was done with all of that. Scenes blast. I closed my eyes. Real. And it, and if there really is anybody up there, they sure were asleep at the wheel that day. I don't say anything. The lump in my throat burns. This ember. I just tried to stroke his hair. I try to soothe his pain. He finds more feelings. He stuffs them into words. Why let a beautiful little girl die with such a senseless, needless death? And she didn't just die, she was killed. That word makes his face twist. I want to hold him till it doesn't hurt, make it go all away. His eyes remain closed, but he's shaking his head now, remembering all there was to say no to that hideous November day that branded our lives. Dad says nothing more. That shake of his head says it all, expresses our closed hands, our bruised, shaking fist. No, no benevolent being, no grace, no meaning at all. My dad, a good farmer who loved his daughter the way only eyes can rightly express. He rarely said all that, only sometimes when he'd close his eyes and ask me to stroke away the day between the fingers. But these aren't things you need to say, anyways. Like all beliefs, you simply live them. We did. No God. No God. Is this the toxic air of the world, this atmosphere we inhale, burning into our lungs? This no, God? No, God, we don't take what you give. No, God, your plans are a gutted, bleeding mess, and I didn't sign up for this, and you really didn't think I'd go for this? No, God, this is ugly, and this is a mess, and can't you get anything right and just haul all this pain out of here? And I'll take it from here, thanks. And God, thanks for nothing. Isn't this the human inheritance, the legacy of the garden? I wake up and put the feet to the plank of to the plank floors, and I believe the serpent's hissing lie, the repeating refrain of his campaign through the ages. God isn't good. It's the cornerstone of his movement. That God withholds good from his children, that God does not genuinely, fully love us. Doubting God's goodness, distrusting his intent, discontented with what he's given, I have desired more, the fullest life. I look across the farm fields. The rest of the garden simply isn't enough. It will never be enough. God said humanity was not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and I moan that God has ripped away what I wanted. No, what I needed. Though I can hardly whisper it, I live as though he stole what I consider rightly mine. Happiest children, marriage of unending bliss, long, content, death defying days. I look in the mirror, and if I'm fearlessly blunt, what I have, who I am, where I am, how I am, what I've got, this simply isn't enough. That forked tongue darts, and daily I live the doubt, look at my reflection, and ask, does God really love me? If he truly, deeply loves me, why does he withhold that which I believe will fully nourish me? Why do I live in this sense of rejection, of less, of pain? Does he not want me to be happy? That's the end of part 1 of chapter 1.